we're going to factor more quadratics. So we're going to look at these ones and determine, is there any number that we could factor out before we start factoring the quadratic itself? And in the first one, we have 2, 8, and 6. I know those are all divisible by 2, so I'm going to factor a 2 out. 2x squared divided by 2 is x squared, plus 8x divided by 2 is 4x, plus 6 divided by 2 is 3. So from here, I'm going to factor what's inside. I know this is a simple kind because I just have x squared. It's not multiplied by a number. So I have to figure out what I can add together to equal 4, multiply together to equal 3. All right, so in this case, we have 3 and 1. 3 plus 1 is 4, 3 times 1 is 3. So we have 2 times, this tells us what we break it down to, x plus 3 times x plus 1. And that is our answer. So we do have that 2 that's completely factored out, and you have to make sure that it is completely factored. All right, in this next one, we have 12, 54, and 30. I know all of those are divisible by 6, so I'm going to factor out 6. 12x squared divided by 6 is 2x squared, plus 54x divided by 6 is 9x, minus 30 divided by 6 is 5. All right, so this one's a little more complex because I have 2 multiplied by x squared. So I'm going to have to break down that middle term to 2 different terms added together, and I need to figure out what those are. So I have to figure out what we add together to equal positive 9, multiply together to equal 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Okay, so in this case, 2 numbers multiplied to equal a negative. So one's positive, one's negative. They add together to equal positive, so I know my positive number is larger. So I'm going to say positive 10 times negative 1 is negative 10. Positive 10 plus negative 1 is positive 9. So we use those to break down that middle term into 2. I'm going to bring everything else straight down. We have 6 times 2x squared plus 10x. I'm going to write it as plus negative 1x, because remember when we do this we're going to put parentheses around the first 2 terms, last 2 terms, and I want addition in the middle. So that's why I put plus negative 1x. Bring down that minus 5. All right, it's all inside parentheses because it's all multiplied by 6. Then I'm going to put parentheses inside it around my first 2, around my last 2 terms. Then I'm going to see what I can factor out, their greatest common factor. Bring down your 6 times. Now this is all inside the parentheses. I can divide 2 and 10 by 2, and they each have an x. So I'm going to factor out 2x. 2x squared divided by 2x is x, plus 10x divided by 2x is 5. Plus, all right, so here's the trick. When I factor something out, I want what's left in the parenthesis to be x plus 5. Meaning, I know I have to get rid of these negatives. But that's the only thing. So I'm going to factor out negative 1. Negative 1x divided by negative 1 is x. Negative 5 divided by negative 1 is positive 5. And again, that's in parentheses because that whole thing's multiplied by 6. All right, I'm going to take out the greatest common factor again. So we have 6 times, they both have an x plus 5, so that's the greatest common factor, times what's left over. 2x plus negative 1, or 2x minus 1. And that is our answer, completely factored. All right, so go ahead and try 2 problems that are very similar and come back when you're ready for the answers. All right, so in the first one, 3, 18, and 24 are all divisible by 3. 3x squared divided by 3 is x squared. Minus 18x divided by 3 is 6x, plus 24 divided by 3 is 8. So this is a simple kind where I'm factoring what's inside, and I just have to figure out what add together to equal negative 6 and what multiplies together to equal 8. I know they're both going to be negative, because a negative times a negative is a positive, and the only way to get a negative when we add them together is if they're negative. All right, so We have to look at the factors of 8, -8 and -1. I can't get -6. We have -4 and -2, which will be -6 when we add them together, and +8 when we multiply them. So this tells me what to break it down to. We have 3 times x minus 4 times x minus 2. That is our answer. All right, one more. All right, we have 15, 10, and 5. They're all divisible by 5. 15x squared divided by 5 is 3x squared. Minus 10x divided by 5 is 2x. Minus 5 divided by 5 is 1. Remember, you have to put that 1 there, because if it wasn't there, then it's like there wasn't a term there. You have to, it's always dividing by what you factor out. All right, so now, because a number's multiplied by x squared, this is the more complicated one. I have to figure out what adds together to equal -2, multiplies together to equal 3 times -1 is -3. So in this case, we have a positive times a negative will give me a negative. They add together to equal a negative, so the larger one is negative. I'm going to say -3 and +1. -3 plus 1 is -2. -3 times 1 is -3. Right, this one we use to break down that middle term. So we still have 5 times 3x squared. All right, inside we have minus 3x plus 1x minus 1. Right, all that's multiplied by 5, so now I'm going to put parentheses around the first 2, around the last 2, and again, it doesn't matter if you did plus 1x plus -3x, like if those two middle terms were reversed, you're still going to get the same answer that I get. Okay, so we have 5 times. In here I can factor out a 3x times 3x squared divided by 3x is x, minus 3x divided by 3x is 1, plus, here I can't factor anything out, but I have to factor something out. So the only thing I can factor out is a 1, right? Which leaves me with x minus 1. And that entire thing is multiplied by 5, so don't forget to close your big parentheses. Okay, so we have 5 times greatest common factor. Take it out, x minus 1, factor it out, times what's left over, 3x plus 1. Okay, and if you had yours in a different order because you had switched your -3x and your positive 1x, so if yours was 5 times 3x plus 1 times x minus 1, that's the exact same thing. These two parentheses, it doesn't matter if they're switched. Okay, so hopefully you're able to factor these quadratics.